The cold wind howled through the trees as Mr. Thompson tightened his grip on the wheelchair. His daughter, Lily, sat silently, her small hands trembling under the blanket. She didn't cry, she didn't beg. She just stared ahead with those big, trusting eyes, the same eyes that once looked at him like he was her hero. "We'll be back soon, sweetheart," he lied, his voice rough. "Just wait here." Lily nodded, clutching her stuffed bunny. She believed him, she always did. The car engine roared to life, tires crunching over dead leaves as Mr. Thompson sped away, leaving his little girl alone in the middle of the dark forest. The wheelchair sat motionless under the moonlight, its wheels sinking slightly into the damp earth. Lily waited and waited. Hours passed. The cold bit into her skin. The sounds of rustling leaves and distant animal cries made her heart race, but she stayed still, just like Daddy said. Then, a low growl. Lily's breath hitched as a shadow moved between the trees. A pair of glowing eyes locked onto hers. A massive German shepherd stepped forward, ears pinned back, teeth bared. Lily squeezed her bunny tighter, tears finally spilling over. But the dog didn't attack. It sniffed the air, then slowly lowered its head. A deep whine escaped its throat as it nudged her limp legs with its nose. Lily reached out a shaking hand. The dog licked her fingers. The German shepherd pulled the wheelchair with surprising strength, its muscles straining as it navigated through the dense undergrowth. Lily clung to the armrests, her heart pounding as branches scraped against the wheels. She had no idea where the dog was taking her, but the fear of being alone in the dark was worse than whatever lay ahead. The forest seemed endless, shadows stretching like grasping fingers, but the dog never hesitated. It moved with purpose, as if it knew exactly where to go. After what felt like hours, the trees began to thin, and the ground sloped downward. The wheelchair jerked and wobbled, threatening to tip over, but the dog adjusted its grip, slowing down to keep Lily steady. Then, suddenly, they broke through the tree line, and Lily gasped. A small, crumbling cabin stood in a clearing, its windows boarded up, the roof sagging under years of neglect. The dog trotted forward, its tail wagging slightly, and stopped at the door. It dropped the blanket and scratched at the wood, whining loudly. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, with a creak, the door inched open. A face peered out. An old man, his beard ragged, his eyes sharp with suspicion. He looked down at the dog, then at Lily, and his expression softened. "Well, I'll be," he muttered. "Brought me another stray, huh, Duke?" The dog barked once, as if in agreement, and nudged Lily's wheelchair forward. The old man sighed and stepped aside. "Come on in, then. Can't leave you out here in the cold." Inside, the cabin was cramped but warm, a fire crackling in the hearth. The man, Lily would later learn his name was Henry, tossed a blanket over her legs and handed her a chipped mug of hot cocoa. "Duke's got a habit of finding folks who don't belong in these woods," he said, eyeing her. "But you're the first one in a wheelchair." Lily sipped the cocoa, her hands shaking. "My dad, he left me," she whispered. Henry's jaw tightened. "Figured as much." He sat down across from her, his voice gruff but not unkind. "You're safe here for now, but we gotta figure out what to do with you. Ain't exactly equipped for a kid." Just then, Duke let out a low growl, his ears pricking up. Henry frowned and reached for a rifle leaning against the wall. "Someone's out there," he muttered. Lily's blood ran cold. Had her father come back? Or was it something worse? Outside, the sound of footsteps crunching on leaves grew louder. Then, a voice. "Hello? Is anyone there?" It wasn't her father. It was a woman's voice, young and urgent. Henry exchanged a glance with Lily before stepping toward the door. "Who's asking?" The voice hesitated. "My name is Sarah. I'm a social worker. I'm looking for a missing child, Lily Thompson." Lily's breath caught. How had they found her so fast? And why was a social worker searching the woods in the middle of the night? Henry didn't move. "And what's your business with her?" The woman's voice grew steadier. "Her father reported her missing hours ago. He said she was taken, but I think there's more to the story." Duke let out another growl, but this time it wasn't directed at the woman. His head turned toward the trees behind her, his body tense. Something, or someone, else was out there. The tension in the cabin thickened as Henry kept his grip on the rifle, his eyes darting between Lily and the door. Duke's low growl vibrated through the room, his hackles raised as he stared into the darkness beyond the woman. Lily's pulse pounded in her ears. Was her father out there? Was he coming back to finish what he started? The social worker, Sarah, took a cautious step forward, her hands raised to show she meant no harm, but Henry didn't lower the gun. "You got proof you're who you say you are?" he demanded, his voice rough with distrust. Sarah nodded quickly, reaching slowly into her coat pocket. She pulled out a badge, the metal glinting in the firelight. "I swear I'm just here to help," she said, her eyes flicking to Lily. "Lily, your father told the police someone took you from your home, but the way he was acting, it didn't add up. I had a feeling he wasn't telling the truth." Lily's throat tightened. She wanted to believe Sarah, but fear kept her frozen. What if this was a trick? What if her father had sent her? Before she could speak, Duke suddenly lunged forward with a sharp bark, his attention locked onto the trees behind Sarah. A twig snapped, and then another, too heavy to be an animal. Someone was moving in the shadows. Henry cursed under his breath and motioned for Sarah to get inside. "Move. Now." She didn't argue, darting into the cabin just as a figure emerged from the trees. A man, tall and broad-shouldered, his face obscured by the hood of his jacket. He didn't call out, he didn't announce himself. He just stood there, watching. Lily's breath hitched. It wasn't her father. But that didn't make it any less terrifying. Henry kept the rifle trained on the stranger. "You got 3 seconds to tell me who you are before I start shooting," he warned. The man didn't flinch. Instead, he reached up slowly and pulled back his hood, revealing a face lined with scars, one particularly nasty one running from his eyebrow down to his jaw. "Name's Garrett," he said, his voice gravelly. "I ain't here for trouble. I'm looking for the girl." Sarah stiffened beside Lily. "How do you know about her?" Garrett's gaze flicked to her, then back to Henry. "Because I was there when her daddy dumped her in these woods, saw the whole thing from my hunting blind." His expression darkened. "And I heard him on the phone after, talking about how he was going to collect the insurance money once they found the body." The words hit Lily like a punch to the chest. Insurance money? Her father hadn't just abandoned her. He'd planned for her to die. The room spun, and she gripped the arms of her wheelchair to steady herself. Henry's grip on the rifle tightened. "And you just let it happen?" Garrett's jaw clenched. "Didn't realize what was happening till it was too late. By the time I got down from the blind, the dog was already dragging her away, spent hours tracking them through the woods." He looked at Lily, something like guilt flashing in his eyes. "I wasn't going to let him get away with it." A tense silence fell over the cabin. Sarah broke it first. "We need to call the police," she said firmly. "If what you're saying is true, Lily's father needs to be stopped before he realizes his plan failed." Henry hesitated, then finally lowered the rifle. "No signal out here. Closest town's a 2-hour hike." Garrett nodded toward the trees. "I got a truck parked a mile east. We can take her to the authorities. Make sure her old man can't touch her again." Lily's mind raced. Could she trust any of them? The social worker seemed kind, but she'd been fooled before. Henry had taken her in, but he was a stranger. And Garrett. He'd watched her get abandoned and done nothing until now. Duke, sensing her distress, pressed against her side, his warm weight steadying her. She buried her fingers in his fur, taking a shaky breath. She didn't have a choice. "Okay," she whispered. But just as the word left her lips, a new sound cut through the night. The distant roar of an engine. Headlights flickered between the trees, growing brighter. Someone was coming. And from the way Garrett's face paled, Lily had a feeling it wasn't the police. The roar of the approaching engine sent a jolt of panic through the cabin. Henry moved first, slamming the door shut and throwing the rusted bolt into place with a metallic clang. "Garrett," he snapped, "you said no one followed you." Garrett's scarred face twisted in frustration as he backed away from the window, his hands curling into fists. "No one did," he growled. "I made damn sure of it." Sarah pulled Lily's wheelchair further from the door, her grip tight on the handles, while Duke positioned himself in front of Lily, his body rigid, a deep snarl rumbling in his chest. The headlights swept across the cabin walls, illuminating cracks in the wood before disappearing again. Whoever was out there was circling. Lily's breath came in short, sharp gasps. Was it her father? Had he come back to finish what he started? The thought made her stomach lurch. Outside, the engine cut off abruptly, leaving an eerie silence. Then, footsteps. Heavy, deliberate, coming closer. A shadow passed by the window and then a fist pounded on the door, making Lily jump. "Open up!" a man's voice boomed. Not her father's voice. This one was deeper, rougher. Henry didn't move, his rifle still trained on the door. "We know you're in there," the voice continued. "We just want the girl." Sarah's grip on Lily's shoulders tightened. Garrett shot Henry a look. "That's not Thompson," he muttered. "That's McCoy," Henry finished grimly. His knuckles whitened around the rifle. "Bounty hunter." Lily's heart skipped. Bounty hunter? Why would a bounty hunter be after her? Before she could process it, another voice joined the first, higher pitched, slick with false charm. "Come on, old man, hand her over. You really want to die for some rich guy's kid?" Henry's jaw clenched. "You working for Thompson?" A dry laugh. "We're working for whoever pays, and right now that's him." A pause. "He wants his daughter back, says she was kidnapped. You really want to get tangled up in that?" Lily's chest tightened. That was a lie, a complete lie. Her father had left her to die. Now he was pretending she'd been taken. Sarah leaned down, her voice a whisper in Lily's ear. "They're lying," she said. "They know the truth. They just want to scare us." Garrett moved suddenly, grabbing a hunting knife from the table and shoving it into his belt. "There's two of them," he muttered to Henry. "Back window. We can take them." Henry hesitated, then gave a sharp nod. He tossed Sarah a second rifle from the wall. "Know how to use this?" She caught it awkwardly, but nodded. "Point and shoot," Henry grunted. "Stay with the girl." Outside, the bounty hunters were growing impatient. Another thunderous knock. "Last chance," McCoy barked. Duke's growl deepened, his muscles coiled like springs. Lily reached for him, her fingers tangling in his fur. She didn't understand what was happening, but one thing was clear. They weren't safe. Not here. Then glass shattered. One of the bounty hunters had broken a window. A gloved hand reached in, fumbling for the latch. Henry didn't hesitate. He fired. The gunshot was deafening in the small space. The hand jerked back, accompanied by a string of curses. "You're dead, old man," McCoy roared. Chaos erupted. Garrett yanked open the back door, knife in hand, and vanished into the night. Henry fired again, keeping the bounty hunters pinned near the front. Sarah pushed Lily's wheelchair toward the fireplace, putting her body between Lily and the danger. "It's gonna be okay," she said, but her voice shook. Then a scream. Not from outside, from the woods. A raw, guttural sound of pain that cut off abruptly. Silence. Henry froze, his finger hovering over the trigger. Even the bounty hunters went quiet. Then a new sound. Duke's ears pricked. A low, rhythmic thumping in the distance, getting louder. Helicopter blades. Lily's breath caught. The bounty hunters must have called for backup. They were surrounded. But then Sarah's face went pale. "That's not them," she whispered. Henry turned, his eyes wide. "Then who the hell—" Before he could finish, a spotlight flooded the cabin, blinding in its intensity. A voice boomed from above, amplified by a megaphone. "This is the state police. Everyone inside, drop your weapons and come out with your hands up." Lily's mind reeled. The police? How? Sarah let out a shaky laugh. "I called them," she admitted. "When I first realized Lily was missing. I left a trail, notes at the station, coordinates. I just didn't know if they'd make it in time." Relief flooded through Lily, but it was short-lived, because outside, beneath the roar of the helicopter, came another sound. Gunfire, and then her father's voice, screaming her name. The spotlight from the police helicopter turned night into day, casting long, jagged shadows across the cabin walls. Lily's father's voice cut through the chaos like a knife, sharp, desperate, and utterly out of place in the middle of the wilderness. "Lily, baby, it's Daddy. Come out, please." The words sent a chill down her spine. He sounded like he was crying, like he actually cared. But she knew better. She'd heard the truth from Garrett. Her father had left her here to die for money, and now he was putting on a show for the police. Henry didn't budge from the door, his rifle still raised, but his grip faltered for just a second. "That son of a bitch," he muttered. Sarah kept one hand on Lily's shoulder, the other clutching the rifle Henry had given her. Her knuckles were white. "They'll believe him," she whispered, more to herself than to Lily. "He's rich, connected. Of course, they'll believe him over us." Outside, the gunfire had stopped. The bounty hunters, McCoy and his partner, were shouting now, their voices blending with the police megaphone orders. "We've got the girl's father here. Stand down." Duke let out a low whine, pressing closer to Lily. She buried her fingers in his fur, trying to steady her breathing. None of this made sense. Why were the police here? Why was her father acting like he cared? And where was Garrett? Then a new voice joined the fray, Garrett's, rough and furious. "He's lying. That bastard left her to die. I saw it." A scuffle broke out. More shouting. The helicopter's spotlight swung wildly, illuminating glimpses of movement. Garrett grappling with one of the bounty hunters. Henry stepping onto the porch with his hands half raised. The police swarming in with guns drawn. And then her father. He looked different under the harsh light. His expensive suit rumpled, his hair disheveled, his face streaked with what might have been tears. When his eyes landed on Lily through the open door, he actually staggered like he'd been struck. "Oh my God, Lily!" He took a step forward, but a police officer grabbed his arm. "Sir, stay back until we secure the scene." Lily's stomach twisted. He was good. Really good. Sarah stepped in front of Lily, blocking her view. "Don't look at him," she said quietly. don't listen. But it was too late. Her father's voice cracked as he called out again. "Baby, I've been so scared. These people took you. I thought I'd lost you forever." A murmur ran through the police. Lily could see it in their faces. They believed him. Why wouldn't they? He was a grieving father. She was just a scared kid in a wheelchair, surrounded by armed strangers in the middle of the woods. Then something miraculous happened. Duke lunged. He didn't growl, didn't bark, just moved like a shot, streaking past Sarah and out the door before anyone could react. Lily gasped as he slammed into her father full force, knocking him to the ground. Her father screamed, a real, raw sound of terror, as Duke stood over him, teeth bared, a deep, warning snarl vibrating in his chest. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then her father made his fatal mistake. He kicked Duke. Hard. The German shepherd yelped, but he didn't back down. And in that moment something in the air shifted, because no one who actually loved their kid would kick the dog trying to protect them. The police officer holding her father's arm tightened his grip. "Sir," he said slowly, "why don't you tell us what really happened?" Her father's face went slack. Then, slowly, it twisted into something ugly. "You stupid—" He wrenched free, scrambling back, but it was too late. The illusion was broken. And then Garrett stepped forward, blood dripping from a cut on his forehead, and dropped a phone at the lead officer's feet. "Check the call log," he panted. He called his lawyer right after he dumped her, talking about insurance payouts. Silence. Lily's father looked at her then, really looked at her, and for the first time she saw the truth in his eyes. Not love, not regret. Just fury that his plan had failed. The police moved in. But as they dragged her father away, as Sarah finally let out a shaky breath and Henry lowered his rifle, Lily only had eyes for Duke. The dog trotted back to her, his tail wagging gently, and licked her hand. She buried her face in his fur. And for the first time since the woods, she let herself cry. The police station was too bright, too loud, and smelled like stale coffee and sweat. Lily sat in her wheelchair, Duke pressed close beside her, as officers buzzed around like flies. Sarah had stayed with her the whole time, her hand never leaving Lily's shoulder, while Henry and Garrett gave their statements in separate rooms. Lily's father was somewhere else in the building, locked up, she hoped. But she couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. Rich men like him didn't stay in jail for long. A female officer with kind eyes crouched in front of Lily, holding out a stuffed bear. "Here, sweetheart," she said softly. "You've been so brave." Lily took the bear but didn't say anything. She didn't feel brave. She felt small and tired, so tired. Across the room, a door slammed open. A man in a sleek black suit stormed in, his polished shoes clicking against the tile. Lily's breath hitched. She recognized him, her father's lawyer, Mr. Graves. He'd been to their house before, always whispering with her father behind closed doors. Now he was here, and he didn't look happy. "This is outrageous," Graves snapped at the nearest officer. "My client is a respected businessman. There's no evidence." "Actually," a new voice cut in. Lily turned. A detective, older, with salt and pepper hair and a rumpled coat, stepped forward, holding a file. "We pulled the insurance policies," he said. 3 of them, all taken out on Lily in the last 6 months. Total payout? $2 million. Graves' face twitched. "That's circumstantial at best." The detective didn't blink. "We also have the call logs Garrett mentioned. Your client phoned you immediately after abandoning Lily in the woods. Care to explain that?" Graves opened his mouth, but before he could speak another voice rang out. "Lily?" Lily froze. That voice. Soft, trembling, achingly familiar. Her mother. She stood in the doorway, her designer coat rumpled, her makeup smudged. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. When her eyes landed on Lily, she let out a choked sob and rushed forward. "Oh, my baby!" Lily's heart pounded. Her mother had left them a year ago. Just packed a bag and walked out, saying she couldn't take it anymore. Lily hadn't seen her since. Now, here she was. Sarah tensed beside Lily as her mother dropped to her knees in front of the wheelchair, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I didn't know. I didn't realize what he was capable of. When I heard you were missing, I came right away." Lily didn't know what to feel. Part of her wanted to push her away. The other part wanted to cling to her and never let go. Duke made the decision for her. He let out a low growl, stepping between Lily and her mother, his ears pinned back. Her mother flinched. What's wrong with him?" Sarah's grip on Lily's shoulder tightened. "He's protective," she said carefully. "Can you blame him?" The detective cleared his throat. "Ma'am, we'll need to ask you some questions. Your husband's facing serious charges." Lily's mother wiped her eyes and stood. "Of course. Anything." She glanced back at Lily, her expression pleading. "I just want my daughter back." Lily looked down at her lap, clutching the stuffed bear. She didn't know what to believe anymore. Then the station's phone rang. An officer picked it up, listened for a moment, then paled. Sir?" he called to the detective. "You're going to want to hear this." The detective took the phone. Detective Hayes. His expression darkened with every passing second. Finally, he hung up and turned to the room. "That was the hospital. They've got McCoy, one of the bounty hunters. He's awake, and he's talking." A heavy silence fell. "Talking about what?" Sarah asked. The detective's gaze flicked to Lily's mother, then back. About who really hired them. Lily's mother went very, very still. And in that moment, Lily knew. This wasn't over. Not even close. The air in the police station turned thick with tension as the detective's words hung between them. Lily's mother didn't move, didn't blink. She just stood there, her perfectly manicured fingers clutching her designer purse like it was the only thing holding her up. Lily felt the room tilt, her grip tightening on Duke's fur as the dog let out another warning growl, his body tense against her legs. Sarah shifted beside her, her voice low and urgent as she leaned down. "Lily," she whispered, "whatever happens next, I need you to stay close to me, okay?" The detective didn't wait for an explanation. He motioned to two officers who immediately stepped forward, blocking Lily's mother from moving any closer. "Ma'am," the detective said, his tone leaving no room for argument, "we're going to need you to come with us for questioning." Lily's mother laughed, a high, brittle sound that didn't match the panic flashing in her eyes. "This is ridiculous," she said, her voice too sharp, too loud. "I just got here. I haven't even had a chance to—" "McCoy claims he was hired by you," the detective interrupted flatly. "He says you paid him to track Lily down after her father failed to handle the situation." The words hit Lily like a physical blow. Failed to handle the situation. As if her death was just some business deal that hadn't gone according to plan. Her mother's face twisted. "That's a lie," she hissed. "I would never—" But then the detective pulled something from his pocket. A phone. Lily recognized it instantly. Her father's phone. The detective swiped the screen, then turned it so everyone could see. A text message, sent the night Lily was abandoned in the woods. Unknown? Number? Did he do it? Father? Yes. But the dog took her before I could make sure. Unknown? Number? Then finish it. Or I will. The detective's voice was ice. "We traced the number. It's yours, ma'am." For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then, in a flash, Lily's mother lunged. Not toward Lily, but toward the detective, her nails raking across his face as she tried to grab the phone. "You don't understand," she screamed. "She was supposed to die quietly. The insurance money was the only way I could—" The officers grabbed her, yanking her back as she thrashed. Lily couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Her mother had been in on it. Both of them. Her parents had wanted her dead. Sarah's arms wrapped around her, pulling her close as the station erupted into chaos, shouting, handcuffs clicking, her mother's sobs turning into venomous curses. But Lily barely heard any of it. All she could focus on was Duke, his warm weight against her, his steady heartbeat the only thing keeping her grounded. Then a new voice cut through the noise. Well, what a mess. Lily looked up. A woman stood in the doorway, sleek and polished in a pantsuit, her dark hair pulled into a tight bun. She didn't look like a cop. She looked like someone who belonged in a boardroom. The detective stiffened. Agent Cole. The woman, Agent Cole, smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I'll be taking over from here," she said, flashing a badge Lily didn't recognize. "This case just became federal." Sarah frowned. "What? Why?" Agent Cole ignored her, her gaze locking onto Lily. "You're a very special girl, Lily. Your parents didn't just want you dead for the money." She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "They wanted you dead because of what you know." Lily's blood ran cold. I don't understand." Agent Cole's smile turned pitying. "Yes, you do. Think. That night in the woods, what did Duke really save you from?" And then, like a dam breaking, the memories flooded back. Not just the car ride, not just the wheelchair. The conversation she'd overheard weeks ago, the files, the names. Her parents hadn't just been rich, they'd been criminals. And Lily? She was the only one who could prove it. The fluorescent lights of the police station buzzed overhead as Lily's mind raced, trying to piece together the fragmented memories Agent Cole had just unearthed. Files. Names. Her parents whispering late at night about things she wasn't supposed to hear. She'd thought it was just adult nonsense. Business deals, money talk. But now, with her mother being dragged away in handcuffs and this strange woman staring at her like she held the answers to some dangerous secret, Lily realized the truth was far worse than she'd imagined. Agent Cole didn't wait for Lily to respond. She snapped her fingers, and two men in dark suits stepped forward, their expressions unreadable. "We're relocating the girl. Immediately," she announced, as if Lily weren't even in the room. "Secure transport, no paper trail." Sarah's grip on Lily's shoulder tightened. "Like hell you are," she snapped, stepping between Lily and the agents. "You can't just take her without—" "Without what?" Agent Cole interrupted smoothly. She pulled a folded document from her jacket and handed it to the detective. "Federal custody order, signed this morning." The detective scanned the paper, his frown deepening. "This says she's a material witness in an ongoing investigation." "Exactly." Agent Cole's gaze flicked to Lily. "And until we know who else might be involved, she's not safe here." Lily's pulse pounded in her ears. None of this made sense. What investigation? What had she supposedly witnessed? Duke pressed against her leg, his low growl vibrating through her. He didn't trust these people either. Garrett, who'd been silent until now, suddenly stepped forward, his scarred face grim. "You're not taking her anywhere without explaining what the hell's going on." Agent Cole studied him for a long moment, then sighed. "Fine, but not here." She nodded toward a private interrogation room. 2 minutes, that's all I can give you." Once the door closed behind them, Agent Cole didn't waste time. "Your parents weren't just trying to kill you for insurance money, Lily. They were covering their tracks. For years, they've been laundering millions through shell companies, money tied to some very dangerous people. 3 weeks ago, you walked in on them discussing it. You thought they didn't notice you, but they did. Lily's breath caught. She remembered that night, sneaking downstairs for water, hearing her parents' hushed voices in the study. She'd lingered too long near the door. Had they seen her shadow? Agent Cole continued, "They couldn't risk you accidentally telling someone what you heard. So they decided to make sure you never could." The room spun. Lily clutched Duke's fur, her fingers trembling. All this time, she'd thought her father had just stopped loving her. But it was worse. She'd become a liability. Sarah looked sick. So what now? You're putting her in witness protection? Something like that. Agent Cole's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then stiffened. "We need to move. Now." Garrett crossed his arms. Why the rush? Agent Cole hesitated, then turned her phone around. The screen showed a security feed, a sleek black SUV pulling up outside the police station. Because someone just tipped off the wrong people about where Lily is? Lily's blood turned to ice. The detective cursed. "Who's in that car?" Agent Cole's expression was grim, the kind of people who don't bother with bounty hunters. A loud bang echoed from the front of the station, a door being kicked open, raised voices, then gunfire. Chaos erupted. Agent Cole yanked Lily's wheelchair back as the interrogation room door burst open. One of her agents staggered in, blood soaking his shirt. "They're inside," he gasped. Sarah grabbed the rifle she'd been given earlier. Henry and Garrett moved as one, barricading the door with a filing cabinet. Lily could hear them now, heavy footsteps, shouting in a language she didn't recognize. Getting closer. Agent Cole pulled a pistol from her holster and pressed it into Lily's hand. "Do you know how to use this?" Lily shook her head numbly. "Safety's off, point and shoot." Agent Cole's grip was firm. "Stay behind me, and whatever happens, do not let them take you alive." Duke's growl turned into a snarl as the first bullet tore through the door. Lily realized with terrifying clarity, this wasn't just about her parents anymore, this was about survival. Gunfire exploded through the police station like a storm, the walls shuddering with each impact. Lily clutched the pistol Agent Cole had given her, her hands shaking so badly she nearly dropped it. Duke pressed against her legs, his body rigid with tension, a continuous growl rumbling from his chest. The air smelled like burning metal and something sharper, fear. Agent Cole barked orders to her team, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Hold the door. We need another exit." Henry and Garrett shoved the heavy interrogation table against the already barricaded entrance, their muscles straining as another volley of bullets splintered the wood. Sarah crouched beside Lily, her face pale but determined. "It's going to be okay," she lied, her fingers brushing Lily's wrist. "We'll get you out of here." A deafening crash made them all flinch, the window. One of the attackers had circled around. Glass shattered inward as a gloved hand reached through, fumbling for the latch. Garrett moved first. He lunged, his hunting knife flashing in the fluorescent light. A strangled cry echoed from outside as the blade found its mark, and the hand disappeared. But it was only a temporary reprieve. More voices shouted in that same unfamiliar language, followed by the unmistakable sound of a shotgun being pumped. Agent Cole grabbed Lily's wheelchair. "We're leaving, now." She yanked open a side door Lily hadn't noticed, a supply closet. But instead of shelves, it revealed a narrow hallway. "Service exit," Cole snapped. "Move!" They ran, the sounds of pursuit close behind. The hallway was dim, the floor slick with something Lily didn't want to identify. Duke stayed at her heels, his ears flat against his skull. Then, a shadow moved at the far end of the corridor. Agent Cole raised her gun, but before she could fire, a figure stepped into the light. Lily's breath caught. It was the social worker from the woods, the real one. The woman looked terrified, her hands raised. "Don't shoot, I'm here to help." Sarah froze. "What the hell are you doing here?" "I followed you. When I heard about the attack on the station, I knew they'd come for her." The social worker's eyes darted to Lily. "You have to get her out of the city, now." Agent Cole didn't lower her weapon. "How do we know you're not one of them?" The woman swallowed hard, then reached slowly into her pocket. Lily tensed, expecting a gun, but what she pulled out was a small USB drive. "Because I've been investigating the Thompsons for months," she said. "This has everything: bank records, shell companies, names, and proof that Lily's parents were working for someone much worse." A beat of silence. Then, from behind them, the sound of the barricade collapsing. Agent Cole made a decision. She snatched the USB and shoved it into her vest. "Then run." They burst through the service exit into a back alley, the cold night air hitting Lily like a slap. A black van idled nearby, its doors already open. The driver, another agent, gestured frantically. "Get in!" They piled inside just as their pursuers rounded the corner. Bullets pinged off the van's armor as it screeched away, tires smoking. Lily gasped for breath, her heart hammering against her ribs. Sarah squeezed her hand. "We're okay," she whispered. "We're okay." But Lily knew better, because as the van sped through the darkened streets, Agent Cole was staring at the USB drive like it was a live grenade, and when she finally spoke, her voice sent a chill down Lily's spine. "This isn't over," she murmured. "If what's on here is what I think it is, we've just stumbled into a war." The armored van careened through the darkened city streets, its heavy tires squealing against the asphalt as it took sharp turns at dangerous speeds. Lily gripped the reinforced handrail until her fingers ached, her other hand still clutching the pistol Agent Cole had given her. The cold metal felt foreign in her small palm, its weight a constant reminder of how drastically her world had changed in just a few days. Duke lay pressed against her feet, his muscular body tense as a coiled spring, his ears flicking at every distant sound that penetrated the van's thick armor. Police sirens wailing blocks away, the occasional backfire of a car engine, the rhythmic thumping of a helicopter somewhere overhead. The USB drive sat plugged into Agent Cole's secure laptop, its tiny blue activity light blinking ominously. Lily couldn't tear her eyes away from it. That insignificant piece of plastic held the answers to everything. Why her parents had tried to kill her, why dangerous men were hunting her, why her entire life had been destroyed overnight. It seemed impossible that something so small could contain such devastating truths. Agent Cole's face was bathed in the eerie blue glow of the laptop screen as she decrypted the files, her sharp features hardening with each new revelation. The tension in the van grew thicker with every passing second, the air heavy with unspoken dread. Finally, Cole let out a slow breath through her nose, her jaw muscles flexing. "This is worse than we thought," she murmured, her voice low and controlled, but carrying an edge Lily had never heard before. Sarah leaned forward from her seat opposite Lily, her usually composed features drawn tight with worry. "What is it?" she asked, her fingers unconsciously twisting the strap of the rifle slung across her chest. "What did you find?" Without a word, Cole turned the laptop screen toward them. The display showed rows of encrypted folders and documents, but one in particular stood out, marked with a single ominous word, Eclipse. As Cole opened it, Lily's eyes widened at the contents. Dozens, maybe hundreds of files filled the directory. Financial records, bank transfers spanning multiple countries, encrypted communications. But most chilling were the photographs. Lily recognized some of the faces immediately. Powerful people. A senator she'd seen on television. The CEO of a major tech company whose products she used every day. Several foreign dignitaries she remembered from her parents' lavish parties. And there, standing among them like old friends, were her mother and father. Smiling, laughing, raising glasses in toast, looking for all the world like they were at some high society gala rather than whatever this was. Garrett let out a low, appreciative whistle from where he sat near the van's rear doors. "Well, I'll be damned," he muttered, rubbing the scar that ran down his cheek. They weren't just laundering money, they were part of something organized. Cole nodded grimly, scrolling through more documents. "A full-blown syndicate," she confirmed, her voice tight. "And from what I'm seeing here, your parents weren't just members, Lily. They were keeping records, blackmail material, insurance." Her fingers flew across the keyboard, pulling up more files. "This is a treasure trove of incriminating evidence against some of the most powerful people in the country." Lily felt the blood drain from her face as Cole continued scrolling. Then suddenly, the agent froze. There, nestled among the financial records and photographs, was a video file, dated the night Lily had been abandoned in the woods. Cole hesitated for just a fraction of a second before clicking play. The footage was grainy, clearly taken from some hidden camera, but the scene was unmistakable, her father's private study in their mansion. The timestamp in the corner showed 11:47 p.m., just hours before her father had taken her on that fateful car ride. In the video, her parents stood facing each other, their expressions starkly different from the polished, perfect images they presented to the world. Her father's face was twisted in barely controlled fury, his usually immaculate hair disheveled, his expensive silk tie loosened. "We have no choice," he hissed, his voice barely above a whisper but dripping with venom. She heard everything. If she talks... Her mother's response was ice cold, delivered with the same chilling calm Lily remembered from when she'd scolded the staff for minor mistakes. "Then we stick to the plan," she interrupted smoothly. "The woods, the insurance payout, it's already in motion." She turned toward the desk, her designer heels clicking sharply on the marble floor. "And if that fails..." Her hand disappeared into the top drawer, emerging with a cheap-looking burner phone. "I have a number, people who can clean up loose ends." The video cut off abruptly there. Silence descended on the van like a suffocating blanket. Lily realized she'd stopped breathing, her chest frozen mid-inhale. The confirmation that her parents hadn't just made some horrible, spur-of-the-moment decision to abandon her, that they'd calmly discussed it, planned it, even arranged backup killers, made her stomach churn violently. Sarah was the first to speak, her voice barely above a whisper. "So who, or what, is Eclipse?" Agent Cole exhaled sharply through her nose, scrolling through more encrypted documents. "That's the million-dollar question," she muttered. "It's clearly a code name for whoever's at the top of this organization, and they've gone to extraordinary lengths to keep their identity buried." Her fingers flew across the keyboard, pulling up a heavily encrypted document that took several seconds to decrypt. "But there's one reference here, a meeting, scheduled for tonight." Henry, who'd been sitting quietly in the corner cleaning his rifle, looked up sharply. "Where?" he asked, his deep voice gravelly with suspicion. Cole's expression darkened as she read the details. "The Thompson family cabin," she said quietly. Lily's blood turned to ice in her veins. The cabin. The beautiful lakeside retreat they'd visited every summer since she was a child. The place filled with happy memories of fishing trips and bonfires and lazy afternoons reading on the porch. Now it was being used as, what? A meeting place for criminals? A headquarters for this Eclipse organization? Garrett's scarred face twisted into a humorless smile. So, that's where they'll be, he said, cracking his knuckles. All of them. The whole rotten bunch. Cole nodded, already typing commands into the laptop. And if we move fast, we can catch them before they realize we have this intel. She looked up, her gaze sweeping across everyone in the van before settling on Lily. This could be our only chance to take down the entire network. Sarah shook her head vehemently. Hold on, she protested, shifting protectively closer to Lily. You're talking about walking straight into a trap. They're expecting a scared little girl in a wheelchair. Cole interrupted sharply, her piercing gaze locking onto Lily. Not a witness, not someone who's seen the evidence, not someone who can identify them. Lily swallowed hard, her throat suddenly dry. She understood what Cole was implying. They wanted her to go back, to face the people who'd tried to kill her, to return to the place where this nightmare had started. Duke let out a soft whine beside her, nudging her hand with his wet nose. She looked down into his deep brown eyes, so full of loyalty and trust, and felt some of her fear melt away. She took a shaky breath, then another, deeper one, and nodded. The van's engine roared as it swerved onto the highway leading north, trees blurring into dark shadows as they left the city lights behind. Lily stared at her reflection in the bulletproof window, barely recognizing the pale, hollow-eyed girl staring back. The cabin. Just the thought of returning there made her chest tighten until breathing became difficult. Duke whined softly, resting his heavy head on her lap, his warm brown eyes full of understanding. She buried her fingers in his fur, taking comfort in his steady presence. Agent Cole was already barking orders into a secure satellite phone, her voice sharp with urgency. I need a full tactical team at these coordinates within the hour. No sirens, no lights. This is a black operation. She paused, listening to the response, then her expression darkened. I don't care what the director says. If we wait for approval, we'll lose them all. She slammed the phone down with a curse. Sarah leaned forward, her face tense. Problem? Cole's jaw worked silently for a moment before answering. The higher-ups want to wait until morning, gather more intel. She shot a meaningful look at Lily. We don't have that luxury. Garrett, who'd been quietly cleaning his hunting knife, looked up with a humorless grin. Let me guess. Someone up the chain is on that USB drive. A tense silence filled the van. Lily's stomach twisted as the implication sank in. The corruption went even higher than they'd thought. Maybe all the way to the people who were supposed to be protecting them. Henry broke the silence, his gravelly voice calm but firm. So, we go in dark. No backup. He checked his rifle's magazine with practiced ease. Just us and the element of surprise. Cole nodded, pulling up satellite images of the cabin on her laptop. The property covers 20 acres of dense woodland with a private lake. Only one access road. She zoomed in on the main building. A sprawling log cabin that Lily remembered as being warm and inviting, now looking sinister in the grainy night vision image. Heat signatures show at least 12 people inside, more patrolling the grounds. Lily's breath caught when she noticed something in the corner of the image. That's the boathouse, she whispered, pointing. There's a secret tunnel from when Dad added the wine cellar. It connects to the main house. All eyes turned to her. Cole's gaze sharpened. "You're certain?" Lily nodded, memories flooding back. "I wasn't supposed to know, but I saw the blueprints once. He said it was for emergencies." A slow smile spread across Garrett's scarred face. "Looks like we've got our way in." Sarah frowned. "It's too dangerous. If they catch Lily there, she won't be going in," Cole interrupted. At Lily's surprised look, she added, "But we need you close by in case we need verification on identities or layout. You know that place better than any of us." The van hit a pothole, jolting them all. Outside, the trees grew thicker, the road narrower. They were getting close. Lily's pulse pounded in her ears as she watched the mile markers flash by. Suddenly, Duke's head snapped up, his body going rigid. A low growl rumbled in his chest before any of them heard it, the distant whine of another engine approaching fast from behind. Cole cursed, checking the side mirror. "We've got company." Garrett peered out the back window. Not police, too quiet. The pursuing vehicle's headlights appeared around a bend, closing the distance rapidly. "And not playing nice." As if to emphasize his point, the first bullet pinged off the van's armored rear door. "Go! Go!" Cole shouted to the driver. The van surged forward, but their pursuer kept pace. Another shot rang out, this time shattering the side mirror. Henry rolled down his window, rifle at the ready. "Someone wants to make sure we don't get to that meeting." Lily ducked low as another bullet whizzed by. Duke pressed against her, his body tense but controlled. The cabin was only minutes away now, but so was their mysterious attacker. Cole made a split-second decision. Change of plans. We bail here and go on foot through the woods. She pointed to an upcoming turnoff. "That logging road leads straight to the lake. We can approach from the water side." The van screeched to a halt, dust flying. As they piled out, Lily got her first clear look at their pursuer. A black SUV with tinted windows, now skidding to a stop behind them. The doors flew open. "Move!" Garrett grabbed Lily's wheelchair while Henry laid down covering fire. They plunged into the dense undergrowth just as more gunfire erupted behind them. The woods swallowed them whole, the moon casting eerie shadows through the trees. Lily's wheelchair jolted over roots and rocks as they ran, branches whipping at their faces. Somewhere behind, shouts and crashing footsteps signaled their pursuers giving chase. Then, from up ahead, a sound that froze Lily's blood. The distinct click of a rifle's safety being switched off. They weren't the only ones in these woods. A voice called out from the darkness, calm and deadly. "That's far enough." Flashlights blinded them as figures emerged from the trees, armed men in tactical gear, their weapons trained squarely on the group. Not police, not FBI, someone else entirely. The leader stepped forward, his face hidden by night vision goggles. When he spoke, his voice sent a chill down Lily's spine. "Mr. Eclipse has been expecting you." The armed men surrounded them, their weapons glinting in the moonlight. Lily's heart pounded so hard she could hear it in her ears. Duke pressed against her, his growl low and steady, but even he knew they were outnumbered. The man who had spoken, the one who mentioned Mr. Eclipse, stepped closer, finally removing his night vision goggles to reveal cold, calculating eyes. Lily recognized him instantly. "Uncle Daniel," she whispered, her voice trembling. Her father's business partner, the man who had bounced her on his knee at family gatherings, who had brought her presents on her birthdays. Now, he stood before her with a gun in his hand and betrayal in his smile. "Hello, Lily," he said, his tone almost gentle. "You've caused quite a mess, haven't you?" Agent Cole moved slightly, positioning herself between Lily and Daniel. "So you're Eclipse," she said, her voice tight with realization. Daniel chuckled. "Just a representative. Eclipse is bigger than any one person." His gaze flicked to the USB drive still clutched in Cole's hand. "But I'll be taking that now." Lily's mind raced. All this time, the people closest to her, her parents, her uncle, maybe even others she had trusted, had been part of something monstrous. They had been willing to kill her to protect their secrets. Garrett, ever the fighter, shifted his weight, ready to strike. But Daniel noticed and raised his gun. None of that," he warned. "You see, we have snipers positioned all around these woods. One wrong move, and this ends badly for everyone." Lily swallowed hard. There had to be a way out. She looked at Duke, who stared back at her with unwavering loyalty. Then an idea sparked. She let out a small, choked sob, drawing Daniel's attention. "Why?" she asked, forcing tears into her voice. "Why did you all want me dead?" Daniel sighed, almost sympathetically. "It wasn't personal, Lily. You just knew too much. And in our world, loose ends get tied up." Lily sniffled, letting her shoulders slump, but her fingers tightened on Duke's fur. "But I don't even remember what I heard," she lied. Daniel hesitated, studying her face. "You don't?" Lily shook her head, widening her eyes in fake innocence. "I just remember being scared, that's all." For a moment, doubt flickered in Daniel's expression. He glanced at his men, considering. That was all the opening Duke needed. With a sudden, explosive bark, Duke lunged, not at Daniel, but at the man beside him, knocking his gun aside. Chaos erupted. Gunfire cracked through the air as Cole and Garrett dove into action, tackling the nearest armed men. Henry yanked Lily's wheelchair behind a thick tree, shielding her as the firefight broke out. But then, a new sound, sirens. Distant at first, then rapidly growing louder. Daniel's head snapped toward the noise. "You called the police?" he snarled at Cole. Cole smirked, blood trickling from a cut on her forehead. Number, but someone must have tipped them off. Lily realized the truth. Sarah had slipped away during the confusion, her phone pressed to her ear. Daniel cursed, backing toward the trees. "This isn't over," he spat before turning to flee into the darkness. But he didn't get far. A shadow moved between the trees, and then Garrett was there, stepping into Daniel's path with a grim smile. "Yeah," he said. "It is." With one swift motion, Garrett knocked Daniel to the ground, pressing a knee into his back as the police swarmed in, shouting orders. It was over. Epilogue. The lesson. Learned weeks. Later, Lily sat on the porch of a new home. A safe house, far from the city and the memories of her old life. Sarah had been granted temporary guardianship while the legal battles raged on. Her parents, Daniel, and dozens of others had been arrested, their criminal empire crumbling under the weight of the evidence Lily had helped uncover. Duke lay at her feet, his tail thumping lazily against the wooden planks. He had never left her side. Sarah joined her, handing her a cup of hot chocolate. "You okay?" she asked softly. Lily nodded, staring out at the sunset. "I think so." She had learned hard lessons, that evil could hide behind familiar faces, that trust had to be earned, and that sometimes the people who were supposed to protect you were the ones you needed protection from. But she had also learned something else. That courage wasn't about being unafraid, it was about standing up anyway. And that loyalty, true loyalty, could be found in the most unexpected places. She reached down, scratching Duke behind the ears, like in a brave German shepherd who had refused to leave her side. Moral lesson. Evil often wears a familiar face, but true courage lies in standing against it. And sometimes the greatest heroes come on 4 paws. Woof.